those are the headlines and our top focus. US President Donald Trump has signed an executive order allowing a range of food products, including coffee, bananas, and beef, to be exempted from tariffs which were imposed previously. Now, the move comes as his administration faces mounting pressure over rising prices. While Trump previously downplayed concerns about the cost of living, he is now focused on the issue since his Republican Party's poor performance in last week's elections. Previously, he argued that the taxes are necessary to reduce the U.S. trade deficit, which is the gap between the value of goods it buys from other countries and those it sells to them. Trump also claimed that the U.S. has been exploited by quote-unquote cheaters and pillaged by foreigners, adding that higher levies would encourage those in the U.S. to buy American-made goods instead. With us on the broadcast is Peter Cardillo, Chief Market Economist, Spartan Capital Security, joining us from New York. Thank you so much for taking our time and speaking to us. It does seem that right after the government shutdown issue seems to have been resolved, Trump is now walking back on tariffs on certain goods, especially food items such as beef, such as coffee, agricultural produce as well. What do you make of his decisions? Because, of course, we'd seen how he vociferously went after countries back in April to impose steep tariffs, which resulted in higher prices for the American consumer.
That's exactly right, and it's no surprise to me that, eventually he would have rolled back a lot of these high tariffs. There's no question about that. I never thought anything other than that, because of the fact that they are inflationary. And he himself has admitted it. He knows that tariffs are inflation. And so I think this is good news in the sense that we can get perhaps some lower prices, maybe not totally, but certainly not the high prices that we're paying here. The American consumer is in dire straits because of elevated inflation, and especially food prices. This is a big factor for the American family. And so it's a big political risk for the administration and, of course, for the Republican Party. And that is any party who happens to be in that predicament at that time. So this is not, a surprise to me. I'm surprised he didn't pull the trigger before. But I think this is good news, and I think the markets will appreciate the fact that he's taken some efforts to lower the inflationary tariff situation.
Indeed, and I also wanted to understand from you what could have sort of spurred this decision. We do know that the midterms are coming up next year, and as a precursor to that, a lot of people were looking out for the gubernatorial, the mayoral polls that have taken place in several cities in the United States. Democrats, of course, have won these. There are some analysts who argue that these are Democratic strongholds, and so they did, by virtue of that, expect Democrats to be elected. But could, these results, the sort of voting, the sort of online discourse that has been taking place, perhaps have spooked Trump into finally revoking, at least alleviating these tariffs?
Yes, of course, and if you look at the recent elections, right, in particular New York City, very true that it's a stronghold for the Democrats. They always seem to win in New York City. But this time the election was somewhat different. We had a candidate that is totally out of the norm. That is, we have a social democrat now as the new mayor. And that in itself is a loud and clear signal to the lawmakers that the citizens are not happy of what's been going on with inflation. And so we had a big protest vote. And I think that could be one of the reasons why President Trump finally realized that he needed to do something. The other thing is, the Supreme Court will be hearing, will come down with a decision in terms of the reciprocal tariffs, which are supposedly illegal. Now, if the Supreme Court should rule against President Trump, that would be a major defeat. And so he needs to reconcile. And I think, the voice of the people, once again, the protest vote certainly was, in my opinion, a spark that made the administration basically backtrack. And I think there'll be more of that coming. Look, just the other day we heard from the trade representative, the United States trade representative, that we struck a deal with Switzerland. The tariffs, the high tariffs now are back down between 10 and 15%. It's still inflationary, but it's something you can live with. And so I think that's going to happen with all the countries. I think these high tariffs, even high tariffs imposed in India, I think eventually that will come down. And I think it's going to happen, by year end. So you might say that it's a semi-defeat for the present administration, because they have realized that high tariffs are inflationary, and at the end, no one wins. No one wins.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I request you to stay on with us. Of course, we're yet to see how the Supreme Court's decision plays out, and the soybean factor as well, considering that Trump's MAGA voter base is from the location, from the Midwest, where these soybeans are grown, which we're, of course, seeing the exports not taking place to China, though China has stated that it will be resuming it, but it's also grappling with the glut, so we're yet to see how that plays out. Request you to stay on as we're now tracking further updates. We're now learning that the BBC is facing a potentially costly legal battle after US President Donald Trump has stated that he plans to pursue suing the British broadcaster for up to $5 billion US. Now, the announcement follows the corporation's admission that it wrongly edited a video of Trump's 6 January 2021 speech for its flagship program, The Panorama. Trump's lawyers had initially demanded a retraction, apology, and at least $1 billion in compensation, citing overwhelming reputational and financial harm. Listen in.
Well, we'll sue them. We'll sue them for anywhere between $1 billion and $5 billion, probably sometime next week.
So you're ready to take?
Well, I think I have to do it. I mean, they've even admitted that they cheated. Not that they couldn't have not done that. They cheated. They changed the words coming out of my mouth.
While the BBC sent a personal apology and acknowledged the editing was quote-unquote an error of judgment, it has rejected the defamation claim and refused to pay compensation, arguing that the program was not broadcast in the US and caused no demonstrable harm. The controversy has already led to the resignation of the BBC's Director General and CEO, plunging the broadcaster into one of its biggest crises in decades. The potential lawsuit could divert top BBC officials from ongoing discussions over the renewal of its charter, which is due in 2028, and result in significant legal expenses as well. This is the latest that we're tracking on the broadcast as far as Trump's battle with the BBC is concerned. Let's in fact play out that soundbite of Donald Trump reiterating that he's likely to sue the British broadcaster for up to $5 billion US. All right, I requested the team to play out that soundbite once again, if we can do that.
we'll sue them. We'll sue them for anywhere between $1 billion and $5 billion, probably sometime next week.
So you're ready to take?
Well, I think I have to do it. I mean, they've even admitted that they cheated. I mean, not that they couldn't have not done that. They cheated. They changed the words coming out of my mouth.
Then, of course, Trump saying that they cheated and changed the words coming out of his mouth. Remember, there were two segments, more than 50 minutes apart, which were spliced together to paint a different color. This, of course, has raised a lot of questions regarding the ethics of journalism, whether free speech is really a license to twist facts, the implications of doing so for none other than a sitting US president, and of course some BBC presenters doubling down and stating that it's a coordinated, politically motivated attack on public service broadcasting, which some question as a bit to divert from the core issue of the violation of journalistic ethics that we've seen. More focus shifting to news coming in. US President Donald Trump's relationship with convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein has once again come under scrutiny after US lawmakers released more than 20,000 pages of documents from Epstein's estate, including some that mentions Trump's name. US Democrats in the House Oversight Committee, which is a federal body that oversees government functions, released email exchanges between Epstein and some of his associates in which the former financier appeared to suggest that Trump knew about his conduct towards young girls, after which the US Republicans released 20,000 documents from Epstein's estate in a bid to counter the Democrats' email releases, claiming that the Democrats had cherry-picked documents to paint a false narrative against Trump. Trump, who had a 15-year-long friendship with Epstein, denies all wrongdoing and has repeatedly stated that he was never involved in or knew about Epstein's sexual crimes. Listen in to what Trump had to say.
His emails when you said you knew about the girls?
I know nothing about that. They would have announced that a long time ago. It's really, what did he mean when he spent all the time with Bill Clinton, with the president of Harvard, who you know, who that is, Summers, Larry Summers, whatever his name is, and all of the other people that he spent time with. Jeffrey Epstein and I had a very bad relationship for many years.
Meanwhile, Republican Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene has stated that the battle over the release of the Epstein files has sent Donald Trump over the edge after he publicly withdrew his support for the Georgia Congresswoman. Greene, who is a standard bearer of the MAGA movement and formerly a strong supporter of Trump, also noted that it is astonishing to see how hard Trump is fighting to stop the files from coming out. We're tracking more updates from the United States.